Hi, everyone has a story. I tend to call them photographs in our head. They help to shape who we are. Now, if you have not heard Vernita Holmes' story, you're going to hear it today. It's about time. This is my friend Vernita. Let me tell you just a little bit about Vernita. I call her my sister friend. I call her my mentor. And sometimes she tells me that I act like that I think that she's my mother. And my response is always, "You're not." So Vernita, tell us how you came to be and what your photographs are that are in your head that have made you be the wonderful person that you are.
Well, thank you, Margaret, for that. But I'm going to go back to the day as to when I was in school, preferably high school. I'm a graduate of Dunbar High School, but at the time, Dunbar was 1st through 12th.
So everybody went to the same school?
Everybody went to the same school. And ironically, the principal, my teachers, we all lived in the same community. Of course, it was segregated, but we had everything we needed right there. But there came a time at graduation I couldn't go to Texas Tech.
So what do you mean you couldn't go to Texas Tech?
Well, it was segregated as well. I couldn't go to Texas Tech. And most of my teachers, well, all of my teachers, which were African American, they too did not go to Tech. So just listen to them talk of their experiences and where they had gone to school. I went to Houston-Tillotson College in Austin, Texas.
So Houston-Tillotson was a school
Yes.
that's called a historically
Historic
black college
African American
university.
school, yes. I went to school there, but in about 1961, when Texas Tech started their integration process, my father got a call from the editor of the Avalanche Journal, which at the time was Charlie Guy, asking if he would consider sending me to Tech.
So you were already enrolled at HT.
Yes.
And he called your father. So why did he call Mr. Woods?
Well, because he knew him. My dad was the type, he worked downtown, and he walked a lot downtown. He knew practically everybody.
Did your daddy drive?
No.
No, okay.
He didn't drive, but he'd catch the bus, but he was on several boards, and he would get picked up to wherever he needed to go. So I guess you didn't really need to drive. He had somebody to take it.
So that's why one of the things that you say is where there's a will, there's a way, because
Yes.
your daddy figured out a way to
Yes.
get around town.
Yes.
Okay.
But he did call me, and at the time, I wanted to be brave, but I was having such a good time. And I did not want to leave Houston.
And you were studying too.
Yes. But we declined the offer. And
So now, let me ask you this. Had they called you before the beginning of your freshman year, would you have gone to Tech?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
I felt right at home at Houston-Tillotson, and mainly because Houston-Tillotson was a United Methodist Church school, and I had gone to the Methodist Church, and my dad knew a lot of the professors. My math teacher was a friend of my dad's, and it was just easy for me there. So I stayed there. However, after being there a couple of years, in about 61, when Tech integrated, also the University of Texas asked students from Houston-Tillotson to participate in a march, and I did. So we'd go to the University of Texas, and they would talk to us, and not so much as tell us what to do, but what not to do.
So some people would describe that as Vernita was a militant.
Well, I felt like it until my mother saw me on TV, and she had me to come home because she was fearful for me with what was going on in the world at that time.
So when you say that you participated in marches, what did you actually do? I mean,
well, we marched. They made signs for us. We marched down Congress Avenue, and we marched in front of Woodworth. I recall going in there, and we could not eat at the counter And they had the little stools, and you'd go sit down, and if somebody got up, they would take the top off that stool where it would just be that bar that the
Just the
stool
little
was.
screw part still left.
Uh-huh. And so we could just sit there, and regardless of what was said to us, and believe me, there was plenty said, but we could not say a word.
So were you eating while you were sitting there?
No.
Because you weren't
No.
served.
No, we did not
So
eat.
did anything ever happen to you? And I know you said that you all were trained or told, don't say anything, don't retaliate. But did anything ever actually physically ever happen to you?
Well, yes, there was a guy walking behind us, and he had baby powder. And he just sprinkled it all along, and he said, you want to be this color now, you are. And
So
we couldn't say a word.
Okay, so and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So it takes a whole lot of bravery, or courage, or stamina, or something to be able to even go to put yourself in that position, and then even more so to sit there and allow people to sprinkle baby powder on you and not say anything. So why did you do that?
Well, not just to get out of class like some did. But I just wanted to participate. It was new to me, and of course I'd seen things happening like this around the world in different places, and I wanted to experience it as well. But during that time, Margaret, it was so different, whereas growing up, like I said, my dad would be downtown. We could not, as a race, try on clothing in the stores.
So and for those of you who know her, you know she loves a dress. She's always been like that. So how did you get all those fancy clothes?
Well, like I said, my dad knew everybody. That was during the time Hemphill Wells, he worked part-time at Cobb's department store, and he would go to S&Q Clothiers, Dorothy's, and all those stores, but he could go and get something for me and take it home. And I
Would he
could
have to
try
pay
on.
for it?
Not all the time, because they knew him. And I could try on things. If we liked it, I could get it. If not, he could take it back.
So how have you avoided being bitter? How have you not been pessimistic? What's in your DNA that has kept that from happening to you based on the experiences that you witnessed and had yourself?
Margaret, my grandchildren ask me that question quite often. And I will tell them, you don't miss what you can't measure.
What does that mean?
That means that I wasn't used to going in the store trying on clothes. I wasn't used to going to certain stores through the front door and what have you, I didn't know what that was about. I knew that if I wanted to go to a restaurant or something downtown, I would go to the back door and place an order.
Tell us about your friend that went to school and that was a journalism major.
I had a friend that graduated in 1966. She was a journalism major. Excellent job. She could do practically anything. However, she couldn't find work. And I was telling my granddaughter about that, which is a freshman in college, and she too is a journalism major. And the sky is pretty much the limit for her. She sees anchors that look like her, not just women, but African American women as well. Matter of fact, my son refers to her as Little Frederica, which is a CNN anchor, which is an African American lady, and she loves it. And she's doing quite well and looking forward to the time that she will get to anchor and do things. And it's about time that those things, take place. And even in our school district, having been in the district for many, many years, retiring after 34 years, served on the school board for 16, when LISD changed their logo to every child, every day, I said, yes, it's about time.
Yes. Okay. I was going to ask you to talk to us some about being a woman, being an African American woman, and obstacles or things that women go through, and then how is it that sometimes men can say, you know, okay, I own this business and whatever, and then if a woman does that, well then, oh, she's just full of herself, she's just bragging. So
Yeah.
what?
Well, you know, you realize your worth. I feel as though that I can tell people my story. And like I said, I have a daughter and a granddaughter, and I would like for them to see, I want to be a role model for them, and not just for them, but for other girls as well. So I try to carry myself in a way where I'm not bitter about things that has happened to me, and I look forward to better things happening, and things have changed so that I'm really pleased as to where I am at this day and time.
Do you get out of your comfort zone?
Occasionally.
Okay, so why do you do that?
Well, it depends on where I am. Sometimes I feel as though, just say if I'm at a store and I'm at the counter waiting to be waited on, and someone else walks up and the person behind the counter goes to that person and say, "May I help you?" I really do bite my tongue. And sometimes it's not easy.
Yeah.
But what can I do? I have to continue to try to be a role model for my granddaughter, especially, because she's the first one to say, well, yeah, why do you let them do you like that?
When we were talking earlier, you made reference to Michael Jackson's song about, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. So what was your analogy, or what point did you want to make based on that?
Well, I look at where, like I said, I look at where I am and where I want to go. And, you know, I just do a lot of it for the people that's coming on behind me. I really want them to be successful and realize and know that you can do anything that you put your mind to.
You know, sometimes I think as an African American, you feel like that it's your role, it's your duty. People expect you represent the race. Whereas if you're not a minority, well, that's just the way she is or something, but you're not representing your race. Do you ever feel that people look at you and say, okay, Vernita has to represent the race, and that's a burden, and that's a hard row to hoe, I guess.
Yeah, you know, not necessarily my race, but for girls in general. You know, I taught in a school that was predominantly Hispanic, and this was, like I say, back in the day, taught kindergarten when students got out at noon, and you'd go visit in the home and get some idea. But every home I went to, of course, they had something for me to eat. And I ate at every home I visited, and I would visit 4 or 5. But you know, I felt as though at that time that I could talk, I think it's called code switching, that I could talk to anybody. You know, whether it's the homeless person, whether it's a teacher, or whether it's a Hispanic parent that doesn't really speak very good English, but I would listen and I would try to relate and try to get them to understand me. But
And to not partake, because think of what I'd heard you say earlier, to not partake could be associated or be looked on as being disrespectful.
right, I didn't ever want to do that. I felt as though that I had a good rapport with my parents, even though some of the things I ate I didn't especially like, but I ate it anyway. But
And that's what you do when you come to my house. You don't like my cooking.
you weren't supposed to tell that, but I feel as though that I can talk and mingle with anybody, whether it's the queen, the celebrities that are here today, the whomever. I've had the experience to to make people feel their worth. I don't want to be less than or more than anybody. I'm just me.
If we went and talked to Marcy, to Duke, to Brandon, to Michaela, to your friends, what kinds of things would they say that they have gleaned from you, from being in a relationship with you? What have you taught? What examples have you set for people?
Well, I just, like I said, I talk to everybody. And my granddaughter is she likes to hear me tell my story. And pretty much anything that she is doing, I can relate back to when I did similar things. Mm-hmm. And she tells her friends, and she'll ask me, she'll say, Yaya, tell them when you did so-and-so. You know?
That reminds me of another story that you had told me about, is that when you would come home from school, that your dad would say, okay, come on, sister, let's go see all. So tell us about that one.
Well, like I said, he worked downtown, so he knew a lot of people downtown, and I don't care where we'd go or what store we were in. If he'd see somebody, he said, well, hello, Mr. So-and-so, this is my daughter, Vernita. She's in college. And then when I started teaching, it was the same thing. Hello, Miss So-and-so, this is my daughter, Vernita. She teaches school. He was proud.
Did he get a chance to see you be a principal?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
and I bet he really bragged on you.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's a poet. So you just rap on for us. And it's about time that you heard this, so listen up.
Well, it is time to soar.
It's time to
soar.
To soar, okay.
Yes. And you know, when I turned 71, I said, I'm going to have fun. At 72, I knew what to do. At 73, it's all about me. At 74, I wanted more. At 75, I said, I'm still alive. At 76, I went to the hospital, so I felt like I needed a fix. And now I just turned 77, and I said I'm closer to heaven, but my son said, don't say that one, so.
But you know what? There are angels everywhere, and I am certainly glad that you're one of my angels that I get a chance to see and to feel and to touch and to converse with, and you have done a wonderful job. So I am very honored and thrilled to be able to sit here with you. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.